Hello, and welcome to a very special interview with one of our star performers in the Dex Legacy. This is Charlie Richards, who voices Ren Dex, the youngest of the three Dex children and the instigator of the drama in season two. Or was he? Do you think that's fair?
I think that's definitely fair to say. I think Ren, being the dreamer, the passionate dreamer that he is, and his love for his siblings definitely caused some problems in season two.
Yeah. So, obviously, I think we can do spoilers
I was going to say, are
here.
we doing spoilers? I should have asked that first.
No, I think we can because,
Yeah,
if we're sharing this after the effect, we can put that in there. Spoilers abound, everybody.
they're coming.
Exactly. So, yeah, he leads the escape attempt, and obviously, it doesn't necessarily go well, but I think he starts off with good intentions.
Yeah, he definitely does. He does it he does it for them, for himself, obviously, as well, but also for his siblings that he has a very strong connection with. I say siblings, obviously, to him, they're not actually siblings, but to the story, they're referred to as siblings often, and their relationship is certainly extremely close.
Yeah. I would
Uh,
say they are siblings, but then it's sort of like it's weirdly blurred. It's like
mhm.
they are like incredibly, incredibly close because of the experiences they've shared, but then they're like also definitely not related,
Yeah,
which
they are not
is
related. Not that kind of story.
very not related. We need to emphasize this. We do not need a Lannister situation going on here. We've had enough of that.
Yeah,
I,
he's a rapscallion, and he definitely caused some problems in season two. But he did have the best intentions.
oh, he definitely goes on to continue causing problems as well because he's
Yeah,
just oh yeah, like he is the key sort of like pain in the ass when it comes to the three kids. He just continues and I love it. And I'm writing the book version of season one at the moment and giving him more moments of just being a pain in the neck is so much fun. Yeah, so no spoilers for that one because it's not available. But yeah, there is more of Ren being an ass coming
yeah,
up.
I feel like you've not told me very much in case I do a Tom Holland, because I, much like the listeners, have no idea what's happening in the next season. I
Yeah,
probably won't know until just before because I've got a big mouth.
I was going to say that because are you the kind of person who reads the scripts in advance, or
Yeah,
are you the kind of person who like reads as they go? So you read them in
I
advance.
think yeah, I think I see benefits to both. For me, I
Mm.
read in advance. I'm a bit anal about it and sort of want to know everything and know where it's going. Um, Kind of like Alan Rickman as Snape, I would assume, wanting to know because you can sort of feather some stuff in between if you want to know, a big gear change or a
Mhm.
big character happening or something. It's I think you get more out of it if you know it all in advance and can line it all up ready to go.
Yeah, and I've definitely I'm a bit famous for this. Like after um, sort of recording sessions, we go to the pub, and Chris is terrified every single time because after 2 pints, I will just answer questions about all of it and about the book, and have just blurted out the final end of the final trilogy at the very end before,
It's
and
terrible.
yeah, it
It
is
is
really
terrible.
terrible.
You could never go for drinks with like fans and stuff. I mean, luckily I'd had a couple of pints as well, so I tend to forget what you say. But I think Chris has got a much better memory than I do.
Yeah, I think we need to start doing NDAs, like soft NDAs
You
in the
should.
studio. Yeah,
We've got
just
listing numbers now. We need to start properly looking into it.
we do because and it doesn't have to be a full Dex level NDA, you know,
Hmm.
like life sort of altering, but probably just a page would do. Okay, so uh obviously you joined us with the original episode, The Bomb, which was meant to be a standalone, but obviously things escalated.
Yeah.
So, which as a writer means the world because obviously having the same actors and the same voices all the way through is amazing. And you always end up writing with the voice in mind as well, so it really helps. But would you say that the production processes have changed between seasons one and two?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Goodness, we did season one asynchronously, didn't we?
yeah,
So I mean, listening back to, there's obviously huge differences between season 1 and 2 for us and the listener. Um, Doing season 1 without being in the room with everybody else posed its own, interesting challenges and dynamics. I don't think the work suffered for that at all. I think everybody really brought it to life. I listened to one of the episodes just before season 2 came out, so I could hear the difference because I was interested. Um, and obviously, we leveled up with Orpheus. Everybody had different mic setups, and we're doing it in cupboards or under duvets or in their own studios. And then when we got to Orpheus, we were all there looking at each other and really um, able to get to the goal of each scene quicker. Actually, it's what it
Mm.
was. The most interesting thing is because we had you in the room, Chris obviously, and then Richard's engineering. We were really able to pinpoint exactly what we wanted, and more often than not, got it in one take. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, like there's such a big difference between listening to you guys line by line, which
Mm-hmm.
is what it is asynchronously, and then Chris having to stitch it all together line by line,
Yeah.
and then just listening to you run the scenes through in a single take. And it was like listening to it already recorded, like it was already part of the thing. It was crazy and magical. And
And save Chris a lot of time.
yeah, and also it just meant that you were in the same level. You were just acting to the same sort of like energy straight off the bat, and
Yeah.
that made all the difference to
I mean,
us.
it
And
was
I
so
think, yeah,
useful for season 2, as the listeners will know that you amped it up considerably for season 2 with the drama and the stakes and stuff. And I think it would have been possible to do it asynchronously again. Obviously, we had met each other and we knew how each other worked by then, and we'd heard the first cut of season 1. But I think with the content of season 2, it would have been
mm,
much more difficult to achieve that without being together, being able to see, Cam, for instance, from my position, I could see him. We were, responding to each other. The timing was we were snapping through it. It was really useful.
yeah, and yeah, I think tonally it really helped. And obviously on the writing front, knowing that I was writing an entire season at the start of the process made a huge difference because
Rather than
season
written
one
down on the bus.
like season one was written on the go as we were releasing, and I had no plan, and it's an actual miracle that it happened, and it's more of a miracle that it was successful. So I mean, yeah, these things are always kind of a miracle, but I think season two just gave us an opportunity at every point to just level things up. And yeah, hopefully season three it's gonna be the same.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
from the cliffhanger of season 2, I think it's going to go up again.
Yeah, and it's not going to lead in a direction you necessarily think.
See, again, you've not told me anything because why would you? Because I've got a big mouth.
Yeah, well, and also I'll just send you all the scripts and go, ta-da!
It's
Yeah,
finished.
exactly. So I mean, this is another thing. Okay, so was getting the scripts, I mean, we've sort of covered this actually, was getting the scripts ahead of time useful?
Mhm.
Yeah, no, we've already really discussed that. And I mean, I think quite a few of the people read them all in advance and got that overview, which you didn't have. We were all flying blind in season one,
Mhm.
which I think it was just terrifying. I lived in fear the whole time. It was awful. So moving on, I guess, did you think that Ren progressed in the story? And I mean, this isn't necessarily a given in season two because it spans a week.
Mhm.
Um, so it's a very short amount of time,
Yeah.
which is a blink, but it can be pivotal. Like a week can make a huge difference to a person. Do you think that that happened in season two?
Yeah, I think there's a small difference between season 1 Ren and season 2 Ren. I think
Mm,
look at it like that. Season 2 Ren was always there in season 1. I
mhm.
think the catalyst was just it just sped up the whole process, and that week a lot does happen in that week, and a lot can happen in that week. And he's obviously been sat on that and formulating his plan and so I think it was always there in season one. I think, yeah, season two, although it is a week, it does feel like so much happens.
Hmm.
You know, it could be believed that it's longer than a week, although we know in the timeline it's not. And I think that is because Ren, as you know, plans everything. He's very particular and anal with certain things, and once he's got that um, concept and idea, he just can't shake it. He's got to run with it, which is
Hmm.
why it makes it so stressful when, in order to do what they need to do, they need to use the Dominosy net, which is obviously, you know, if there was another opportunity, another thing he could have used, he would definitely go for that, because the net is the only way that causes instant friction and problems right from the off. So I think the passion that he has is obviously so high, and he's so driven if he was going to resort to that.
Yeah, I think, as you say, if there was any other way, it would have been.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I think,
like.
yes, I think season one and season two ran out the same, because they can't shake an idea, and it's just so important to him and
Mhm.
his, you know, siblings. And I think you asked me what ages and ages ago, maybe it was, we did a Q&A. I think passionate is the one word that I use to describe Ren. It's just
Mm.
like fire, whatever it is he needs to achieve. It's just, is that fair? Would you agree, as the writer, that?
Yeah, and I think like that passion, it sometimes like takes over, because sometimes
Yeah.
he just gets totally blinkered, and that is what drives him being such a pain in the ass, because he doesn't like, he gets so blinkered, and then he goes and tries to confront the issue, because he thinks that if this is the way, if everybody just understood, they would do it and they would listen. And there's even a shadow of that in season one, when Tristan and Nathaniel are talking about the bomb and how Ren went and told them that something else had happened like this on the ancestral planet, which is Earth. And it was an absolute disaster and too many people died. And they're like,
Don't do this.
exactly. And you can just imagine Ren like knocking on the door of the library and being like, like, you don't want to do this, don't do this at all. And yeah, I think Tristan's words were, it was a long way of saying I told you so. So yeah, he is an absolute pain in the ass. I totally agree with that assessment of him, and the blinkered thing and the passion thing and the yeah. I think, okay, so I mean, one of my questions is, given the whole of season two, were there any standout moments for you? Any favorite scenes that really sort of resonated with the characters and the story?
Yeah, I mean, we felt the shiver in the room. Obviously, what did we do? We did 2 days at Orpheus, and
Mm-hmm.
there were a number of scenes where you guys would be, there'd be like, we'd finish on the last line, and there'd be a pause where the three of us actors were waiting for somebody to say something, and it would just be you and Chris going like just a sigh, and then Chris would go, "Okay, I think we've got that one." The one that the big one for me, and I think actually if you spoke to them, but they probably say the same, is when they're in the tunnels and they know, um, we're doing spoilers, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
know
yeah,
you
yeah,
said
that's fine.
I just
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
make sure. They're in the tunnels and they know that they've been caught up to, and they know that they're literally above, the manhole above them, um, and they don't know what the outcome's going to be, and it's just them three, and it's like the truest moment for me with the three of them together. Like, I guess it's like ride or die. It's like, the way to say it. It's like realizing the weight of the situation, but still gunning for it, because you're together as a three, and three musketeers, in for a penny, in for a pound. And it's really, I remember doing it. I think we did that one a few times because
Mm.
we knew we knew the gravity of it, and we wanted to get everything, absolutely perfect. There were a couple of scenes where you guys were happy with it, and we would say, if we've got time, would you mind if we hit it one more time, because we think we can get, just a little more juice out of that, or we can, you know, really hit something. But yeah, I think that was the one where they just take the deep breath before entering madness above.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you talk about that scene, because I wasn't necessarily expecting it, but no, you're right. That one was a big, and it's that moment when they realize that they're going to have to kill people intentionally, and people are going to die. Are they going to die though? Because this is a moment of choice, and they can choose, and they're going to choose violence. Basically, they are choosing violence today. And yeah, it's like all or nothing. And I think that you're right, as a trio that was a huge moment, and you know, a moment of desperation really. And your performance just completely, yeah, it
So
was
interesting. They've grown up with lots of the people that were waiting up above the manhole. So the whole scene was layered so much, because it was obviously Ren had the plan and they were getting there, and the plan was getting more dreamy and big ideas about what they wanted to do when they were free. And then of course in Dex style they're faced with another problem. But this one is bigger, you know, it was much larger than anything they dealt with. And they are still kids. We have to remind ourselves often when we're recording or talking about it, they are still, although they've seen lots and they've been, you know, subjected to experiments and horrible things, they are still kids. So they grew up very fast and trying to battle with that choice of what they really want to achieve. And then the thing they need to overcome is people they've grown up with and know very well, similarly gone through things like that. And the balance of that was difficult. But I think that was when you really felt it in the room. Lots of the stuff super high octane and dramatic, but for me that was the one where it really hit home, that it's really leaning into the darkness of a decision for a group of kids, which you wrote, you monster. You monster.
See, this is where it helps having a trilogy already written at the end, because I know where they're going. Yeah. Because if I didn't have that, I might have shrunk from that moment and been like, you know what, I can't do this, I'll do it differently. But because I know where they're going, I know it has to happen. And then sometimes I get to a point and it's a really hard point, and I'm like, damn it, I have no choice but to write this scene. And I sort of like created a problem for myself there. But also I love the process, because obviously I write the words and then you guys bring it to life in a way that is so much more than I could ever ask for. And the delivery gives it the gravitas that it needs. And yeah, getting across, like I had someone read the books before, and something that sort of they sometimes struggle with is the absolute difficulty of fighting a system that you have been raised within, and knowing that the system is toxic, knowing that it's damaging, knowing that the people there have not got your best interests at heart, but still wanting to please them and still wanting to do the things that they approve of. That urge to seek approval, it doesn't go away, and it doesn't get any easier. And you know, I think in that moment they can only do it because they're together. I think if they were on their own individually, they just wouldn't be able to do it at all. And I think that you guys got that across brilliantly. And you know, I mean, when you were in the studio and we were saying, yeah, we've got it, and you guys were saying, can we get another run at that because we can do more? I love that, because it proves that you're all in it together and you're all thinking, no, we can knit this tighter. And that's where more collaboration comes in, because you know, you as a writer can be like, you know what, first take's brilliant, it's more than I could ever dream of. And as an actor you're like, no, this is just go one, like we can ramp up. And yeah, that's where your skills come in and make it better and better. And I seriously appreciate that. Okay, so I wanted to ask, were there any favorite episodes or interludes for you?
Episodes or interludes?
Yeah, because I know Cam loved episode 4, and he literally came in the room in Orpheus and was like, episode 4's a banger and we're barely in it, but that's the one.
Cam loves it. Cam is funny. I mean, I think he was listening to the episodes when they were dropping as well even though he knows the story, he was shocked every time something happened. Cam's brilliant. Favorite, because it's annoying because the one I've just described is one of my big favorites. I need to
That's
pull it.
fine.
Yeah, I just think the tunnel stuff was brilliant. I mean, obviously, I as an actor, mostly I do comedy stuff.
Yeah, I was going to
I'm
mention
raised
that because
raised on comedy, so I'm always leaning towards comedy. And one of my favorite scenes, because as dark as Dex is, we do have some little laughs in there as well to keep you all happy, and so it's not super dour all the time. When the two agents are in the tunnel, I mean, all the tunnel stuff was brilliant. I think the production, the post stuff that Chris did for the tunnels,
oh,
it's
mm,
so good. Like it's so immersive, that bit. And not that the other stuff isn't. I just think when you've got your headphones on and you're hearing the drips and the echoes, and there's just something about it that it made it so much easier to imagine those
mhm,
scenes heads, like like a film, like you could just feel everything.
yeah,
But yeah, when the two agents come, I mean, the script is just hilarious. The the it's real old school comedy, like just ridiculous farce, really, in the midst of this dramatic, epic story. These two sort of two little amoebas, little yes men come into the tunnel facing three vicious killers, talking
yeah,
about the benefits of Dex and the schooling system. I just thought it was hilarious, and the delivery of it was just as funny as reading it on the page. So yeah, the comic relief in that moment, and again because you've written it that it's super 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 dramatic. You're building up all the tension, everything's happening. Where can we go? There's nowhere to release the pressure unless something happens, and then you come in and you just undercut it with a really 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 funny scene that the audience then you can have a moment's breath, giggle, enjoy yourself, forget all of this stuff for a second, and then once it's done, it was straight back up again.
yeah.
So I think
And I
that's
see. I love the fact that during that scene, your character is actually doing a loop behind them, ready to slit their throats as
yeah,
well.
it's always there. The darkness doesn't stop. It's just you sort of forget what's happening because this lovely scene's happening. Chris voiced one of those. Um, one
John
of the eight.
Baberton was the other agent, and he's just brilliant.
This sort of dumb show they both brought was, but believable. Like it's not ridiculous. It is ridiculous, but it's not disingenuous. It was just perfect. And then yeah, like you say at the end, it's over very quickly for those two precious agents that were enjoying the benefits of their employer.
Yeah, they go down there with such good intentions. Like they're just going down there. They've got to round up some kids who have escaped from, Dex Island. They're just going to bring them back. Kids, we've had enough of this. We just want to go home. Fun's over. And they just completely underestimate who they're talking
They
to.
just didn't realise. Bless them. And Chris often played characters that die. Um, Poor chap. For everything Chris does, he's an incredibly gifted voice actor as well.
Yeah.
And he does what can that man do? But he often dies, doesn't he? Poor chap.
Yeah. And all plays villains.
Always plays villains and
Yeah.
often gets smoked. So
Yeah.
we're very lucky to have Chris in that team.
One of my favorite moments from Chris that people will never hear is, or they might if we do an outtakes reel, is when he's shouting as Nathaniel and really like shouting in the room, and he basically he ends up saying he's shouting and shouting, and then the scene comes to an end, and then he goes, "Oh, I scared myself then." We have it on recording, and it's just such a wonderful just snap back to himself. And yeah, I actually I have to say I love that scene because it's actually a homage to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy
Okay.
when they're in Hitchhikers, they're being shot at, and then they have this conversation with these policemen, who are saying, you know, well, it's not easy being in our job, you know, and everything. So it was a bit of a homage to that, and it was a bit of a homage to what have the Romans done for us, you know, sort of like, well, what's good about Dex Island? Well, the education's great. You know?
It was very Python, and as Chris knows, I'm a huge fan of that stuff. It was so wonderfully placed and
Yeah.
and executed. But yeah, I think what makes it my favorite is, like I say, the placement of it. It was amping up to the end of the season, so obviously everything was firing on all cylinders, but we still had time to have a little giggle. I just thought it was knitted in wonderfully,
Oh,
which is
that's good
cool.
to know. Because I have
You,
actual like questions about that. Like, was it too much of a juxtaposition? Was it too much of a departure? But I'm so glad I kept it in now.
as people watch stuff all the time, and it's always nice to have moments of both light and shade, because I think they do, the listening experience. And also you can't possibly sit and listen to a full episode of just, do you know what I mean? Like, as exciting as it is tiring sometimes. And it's a really useful tool to bring that light and shade, to give
Mhm.
them time to breathe, because otherwise, if you focused on all the dark stuff that you write, you just hold your breath for 25 minutes to 25 30 minutes of an episode on the way to
Yeah,
work. And then you get to work and you're up. Do you know what I mean? I think
yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's like then you've got to do a full day of work after listening
Like,
to what.
you don't know, man. You weren't there.
Yeah, photocopy at night. Still, I think you need that, and I'm
Thousand
sure,
yard stare.
yeah, maybe you need to do a poll on the social media and see if people agree. But for me personally, I would say it's very pleasant to have a break sometimes.
I have to say though, I mean, like one of my main gripes when it comes to people writing post-apocalyptic stuff is that there's never any humor. Like some shows just lack humor. And when you think that in the trenches during World War One and World War Two, there were publications, humorous publications going through the trenches where people were making very off-color jokes, but jokes that resonated and made each other laugh in the ridiculous situation they were in the horrific situation they were in. People find space to laugh because it's what keeps us going. You know, love and laughter, even in the darkest situations, you know, even in the most, you know, and a lot of stuff, I think, when it's portraying something serious, tries to keep the comedy out and, you know, recognizing the farcical nature of what's happening in a moment when it's like, what is going on here? Like, do they not know the stakes? Do they have absolutely no idea? Like, this is ridiculous. I think it's, you know, it's human. It's more realistic to have those
It's
moments.
fast. Life is non-stop fast. You get on the
Yeah.
tube. I mean, I live in London. You get on the train, and you wouldn't believe the characters you meet in real life. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, these things happen. So I think you're right that, art imitates life, and life is funny. Like, and if you don't look for that light in the darkness, you'll just drown.
Yeah, God, isn't that a nice note? I think,
I was thinking about the trains. I was like, I've got to get a train later. I'm gonna be stood like packed in like a little sardine.
yeah. And then you're there and it's like something happens, but you're all just like not looking at each other. And
So
sort of
brilliant.
it's
It's so
it's the sort of like the polite sort of aversion of eyes, you know, and everything, even though you're basically staring into someone's armpit, or I am because I'm petite, and you know,
you're
or I'm at boob level with somebody, and it's like I'm just, and then I realize I'm staring at someone's crutch and there's literally nowhere I can look, you know, like I'm
You got to wear sunglasses on the train. It's the only way.
yeah, that's a great idea. Except then you look like one of those people who wears sunglasses inside, and they, like, yeah, but maybe that is better actually, just being one of those people. Um, yeah. So I mean, I was going to talk about the fact that you do amazing stage work, and you know, I've seen you in West End shows and comedies, always comedies, and that is always very different to Dex. And I was going to say, like, I mean, first off, is voice acting very different as a process to stage acting in terms of adopting character? you know, etc. I mean, apart from the fact that you're in a booth and you're not like occupying a stage visually, in terms of
Yeah.
like in your head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think every actor will do it differently. I think I approach it the same. I mean, I graduated in oh gosh, 2016,
Mm-hmm.
uh, with, you know, a list of things and techniques and stuff, like a long list that I learned at drama school, and I sort of cherry picked the ones that I use and what I find useful. So I have my little, they call it the toolbox,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
like little, you know, little things that you rely on. Yeah, so for me, I approach every character the same, because that's my, how I find it most useful. I think the main difference is, I mean, the it's similar in many ways. Like the ensemble of a project, the group energy, and, you know, all aiming for the same outcome
Mm-hmm.
is always there. But when you do stage work, you know, you're there physically
Mm-hmm.
working towards something, and energy is important, um, because you're doing it live and you've got an audience that you can't drop the ball because they're all there with you. So the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
way that goes wrong, for example, it's a runaway train. Once you're on, and the audience are fully there with you. If you drop the energy once, you have to work really hard to lift it back up.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, with most farce, it's always going up until you reach that climax at the end where everything goes nuts.
Yeah.
Um, and in many ways, it's the same with audio as well. And I think with Dex being in the room, like we said, was so useful because you're working towards that. But with Dex, we record out of sync. So with a play, obviously the curtain goes up, you do act one, you do act two, you get to the end, and it's all, you know, it happens in order. Whereas
Yeah,
with Dex,
yeah,
we record, you know, interlude 5 before we've done the episode 1. So it's about tying that together. And we got lucky because the actors that are involved in Dex believe in Dex and enjoy the story and the characters themselves. So they always know, like Cam, for instance, like
yeah.
Boy Oh Boy, loves it, does the work, and knows exactly what we're aiming for. So the ensemble is super tight. So the differences between are purely technical. Like
Mm.
in the booth, all you have is the microphone, and you need to be technically aware with like volume,
Yeah,
lots
yeah,
of
yeah.
high octane scenes in Dex with, you know, raising your voice or shouting on a battlefield. So you need to be technically aware that you can't be right on the microphone and things like that, which is obviously
Yeah.
different. It's just a big old barn full of people. Yes, I think the only difference is really is technique for me.
Mm. That's, I mean, I think we could talk about all of this all day. I'm aware of the fact that we are rapidly running out of time, so I've got to
But we
draw this to a I've got to draw this to a conclusion, unfortunately. But thank you so much for joining me today and giving us all this insight. And yeah, for me as a writer, it's so interesting. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Send me season 3.
Yeah, I will. I just finished drafting it. Oh,
Did you? First
yeah,
draft that? Oh, there we go.
yesterday.
I won't be that long until that email comes.
No.
Oh boy. Then the work begins.
Oh yeah.
Thank
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And
you.
yeah, see you soon.